You're listening to the Holistic Hippie RN. I'm your host, Laura Gibby, quirky nurse, holistic healer, and transformational coach. Here to empower you to take charge and create balance so you become the green thumb of your life and begin consciously cultivating the life you desire, where you flourish and thrive. Think of this as the greenhouse of growing possibilities that will challenge your way of thinking through mindset shifting, holistic tips, and energetic up-leveling. I am so excited to have you here today, so let's get growing. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for showing up today. I am so grateful to have you here, and I'm so glad to have you here. I really hope you have some amazing takeaways. I hope it is a beautiful day wherever you are. And if it is not yet a beautiful day, I hope you are able to sit with that and turn it around and see the beauty within challenges and the beauty within the lessons, and see how it keeps you growing and moving and molding you in your life. I always feel like our challenges are, while sometimes they can be very testing, our challenges are also the things that shape us into who we are becoming when we start achieving the things that we would like to achieve. And so I actually had this very interesting thought this morning about how it has to do with words and mindset, because I talk a lot about that. But essentially, it's kind of like the way that you align with your path. It's almost the path into aligning with your path is based on your words. So what do I mean by that? I mean in the sense of when I talk about things, I've mentioned this in a previous episode too. When I talk about things, I don't use words like it's hard. I sometimes use words like it's challenging, and I'm still trying to think of better words. But when I talk about creating things in my life, I talk about them being created with ease. I fully believe that you can have things flow into your life easily, joyously. And I do think there are lessons around how they flow into your life. But I usually will stay away from saying, this is hard to do. This is going to be hard to achieve. So when I thought about that, I also think about the people who have, the phrasing around things they're trying to achieve of, it is hard. You need to work hard. You need to take on this challenge, And when you think about it, at the end of the day, when you reach your vision, you've aligned with the path that gets to your vision, and it's the wording behind it that helps you align with it. So if you see something as hard to do, that is probably what's going to align you with your path meant for your vision, because you're speaking that path. You're speaking that it will be hard. And when you choose the hard route, then that's the right path for you, right? So like I said, I usually say it will come with ease, which means I need to align with whatever path feels easy, because that's the path that is meant for me. That's the path that is spoken by me. When I take on the path that seems harder for me, then it usually will be the wrong path. I actually oftentimes will say, say you're moving somewhere and you found the place, you're getting set up, and then everything starts going wrong. And it's kind of like, in my eyes, if it's meant to be, it will flow easily. If it's not meant to be, all these barriers are things that might be a message you should stay put where you are. But when you think about, if someone thinks of moving as being an intensive task, a lot to take on, challenging, they think about all the things they don't like doing with moving. A lot of people don't like packing. I love packing. It helps me clean out stuff, and I get so much done with packing. I love it. And I love unpacking too, and organizing. So what I think about when people have the mindset of moving being a hard task, then when they encounter all the barriers of moving, that could actually be the message that they're going in the right direction. I think this is very important. It goes back to being mindful, being intentional, but being really aware of how you speak things, being really aware of the things you're telling your subconscious, because your subconscious wants to fulfill that. So what I see as the easy path being the correct path doesn't necessarily mean it's the correct path for someone else, because they might have told their subconscious that it's going to be a hard path. So the easy path could actually be the wrong path for them. I mean, I want everyone to be able to live, with ease and joy. And I want everyone to be able to have this abundance and peace in their life. And I feel everyone wants that dream. Everyone wants the ease and the flow. And that's why I think it's so important to be aware of how you word things and to break through your limiting beliefs and the different stories you utilize. Because when you start being more aware of it and wording it differently, then you start creating that path that is going to align you with your words, or, your words are going to align you with the path. So think about that and start considering your words. If you haven't started considering how you speak about things, that's one of the first things to start considering. Because I noticed when I started this journey along being more mindful with how I speak, how I think, and, just reading more of the books that kind of talk about these things, I remember thinking to myself, how on earth will I hear my thoughts? I have so many thoughts. How am I going to hear when this, when like a negative thought comes in, when a limiting belief comes in? How do I hear it? How do I know it? How do I redirect it? And the more you take the time to practice being mindful around it, the easier it becomes. Because a lot of times now I find myself, I'm actually a little more present with myself. I actually find it harder to multitask now because I choose to be more present and mindful of my thoughts. And sometimes that can be frustrating when I want a lot of things to get done, but I also really enjoy it because I'm more present with things. So I started paying attention to my thoughts by doing check-ins every day. I would check in maybe 3 times a day. I had a friend that was actually an accountability partner, I guess you could say. Like, I like to think of it as you're going to the brain gym together, and we would text each other the good and the bad of the day. So then I started paying attention to more of when I noticed good things throughout the day and when I noticed bad things throughout the day. And in doing that, it helped me start paying attention to those thoughts that were giving the emotional attachment to what is good and what is bad. And I started paying more attention to the different inner voices that I have and the different wording I would have. So I love that because it's a good starting point to, paying attention, becoming more mindful with your words. Once you start hearing your thoughts, once you start recognizing them, once you start narrowing them down, then you're able to redirect them. And when you're able to redirect them, you're able to be very intentional with your thinking. When you're intentional with your thinking, you're intentional with your speaking, and you're also intentional with your actions, because actions also play into everything. So, one of the stories I like to think of that people have is around, I don't have time for that. And it's kind of like, well, you're creating the story, you don't have time for something because you don't want to do something. And because you don't want to do something, you're saying you don't have time for it, right? So you're also telling your subconscious that you don't have time for the plans that you might have created with someone or the plans that someone asked you if you would create. But when you say, I don't have time, you're telling your subconscious you don't have time. And thus, your subconscious is going to create having less time for you. So when you go through the busyness of the day, instead of saying, I don't want to do these plans because I don't have time, consider how you're saying it. You could just say no, or you could just say, no, not right now. You could say it very tactfully, definitely. But the point is, consider the words you're feeding to your subconscious. Consider how you're telling your subconscious you would like to take your path of alignment with your vision, with your purpose. So what I've been finding is the things that I would be doing in my vision, what am I doing now? I ask myself that a lot lately because I think it's very important to embody your vision, to align with it as much as you can, even if it's a small thing. So a couple times a month, probably, I will write down a list of the things I'm doing now that I would still be doing in my vision. And I either try to delegate some of that list of the things that I wouldn't be doing or just cut them out.
So one of the things I noticed was in my vision, I'm still podcasting and I'm still writing. And in my vision, I have definitely created a team and delegated things like social media. So I notice in my own personal life, when I'm not doing social media as much, I feel like I thrive more. I just feel more in the moment. I feel happier. I feel really good. And that's because social media is not in my vision. But I also notice I come up with so many different ideas for writing, for blogging, for podcasting. I notice it flows very easily as far as finding people to speak on my podcast, because I love the conversations I have. And I find it's a lot more easy to speak on my podcast, even if I don't always get it right or don't always make sense. I do find that easier. And I'm saying this because those things are things that are in my vision. Having a beautiful garden, having an herb garden, things like that is in my vision. So naturally, all my plants are really happy now. I attend to them more. I'm more intentional with how I view my plants. So think about that. That's a really good question to ask yourself, is think about the things you're doing day to day and think about what you would like to do if you could do anything. When I talk about your vision, I'm talking about without the stories. You know, if you take away the financial aspect, if you take away the time aspect, if you take away the skills you don't already have for it aspect, if you take away everything that you say for why you can't have what you would like, then what is your big vision? You know, what is that thing that really calls to you that you would do if you could do anything you wanted, you know? And really step into that and then assess, what would you do in that vision? Who are you being in that vision that you are already doing? And follow that path, because that path, in my eyes, will be the easier one. If you're someone who's wording it as it's going to be hard, then take the hard path. Or start mindfully and intentionally paying attention to your thoughts and speaking it into being an easy path. You can always rewire your subconscious. You can always rewire your mind. And the minute you start choosing to do that, the minute you start choosing to be mindful and intentional in your words and your actions, it will start rewiring your path. And that's why this is kind of like a two-part thing, I guess. The sense of actually, it's three parts, I guess, because it starts off with how you are going to be if you're living your vision, and be that today. How are you speaking to align, that will align with your path? And start being mindful through that. Start being mindful with how you're speaking so that you can shift your alignment to your vision into an easy path, a path with ease, a path with joy. I recently talked to someone and she was saying how she had requested something in her life and it manifested, but it manifested in a way that was frustrating. And she was like, oh yes, I should have said with ease at the end. So when you add on words like that, it actually teaches your subconscious, hey, I want to manifest this, create this, and I want to do it easily. And your subconscious is like, okay, how can I create this easily in your life for you? The universe says the same thing. Okay, how can I create this easily in your life for you? And then it starts to flow. So getting clear on your vision and the things that you would be doing in your vision that you do now, you're already at that starting point. Start doing those. I've noticed the more I step into doing the things that I would be doing in my vision, the easier it actually is to start creating things in my vision, to start seeing them really come to pass. And to start, flowing. And it flows with ease. Those things are the easiest things for me to create. So say with writing, when I start writing things, it just flows. I mean, I think I filled up 3 notebooks. No, I filled up 3 journals last year. I filled up probably 4 big notebooks just with notes, ideas, writing. I mean, it just flows with my podcast, it's the same thing. When I plug it in and start talking, it just flows. When I reach out to people, it just flows. And I have the best conversations, and it's so much fun, And that's because those are things in my vision. If I were to buy different herbs and spices, different herbs to grow, I could probably grow them and dry them, and it would just flow. It would be easy because that is in my vision, and I believe the path to my vision is easy. So those are your 3 things to test out, Find out who you would be and start being that. I believe I had a previous episode that talked about that some, in the sense of I noticed how well things flowed in the holidays and asked myself, who can I be to tap into that every single day? Because I was being the person, or at least aspects of the person that I would be in my vision. There's definitely more things that I can incorporate, but it's the sense of start being that way. Start being mindful and intentional with your words and your thoughts, and start getting clear on your vision and how you can truly step into that. I also think that it's important to, not only be aware of your vision, but when you're aware of your vision, be aware that there's so many different ways that your vision can come to pass. Kind of the sense of, I think this is why I also became more disenchanted with my social media experiences, in the sense of, 1, it's not in my vision. And 2, it's kind of the algorithm with your social media shows different things that either you talk about or you search about or you're learning about, And so with my business, a lot of stuff that showed up was teaching you how to do social media. And there's so much information out there. It is so cool how much information there is. It's so cool having the internet and so much at your fingertips. But it also became overwhelming because I was like, oh my gosh, this is the right way to do this, because this is X, Y, and Z that this successful person says, right? So my thought with that is there are millions of infinite right ways to get to where you want to go. And just because someone says something is the right way doesn't mean it's the right way for you. I think your intuition guides you for what is the right way for you, rather than someone else telling you. There's so much about how you can organically develop traffic through social media. And definitely, absolutely, there are ways to do that. But because things like social media are not quite in my vision, there are other methods that are probably more aligned with how I would create organic traffic or clients or things in my business, right? So that's just one example. There are so many examples I could come up with, but that's an example that I think of when I think of standing in my vision. It's kind of the sense of I need to block out all the chatter of this is the right way. I've researched so much of this stuff that I could tell you that there are tons of right ways. They all make sense to me. They're all amazing, but it's narrowing down to what is the right way for me because it's aligned with the path that I'm taking. And then understanding what things do I need to tap into that are going to be the most aligned for that path, and creating that and drawing that in. And that goes down to every aspect of your life. That can go into everything. What is it you want? What is it you would like? And what are ways that are similar to already having it? Because when you start being the person that already has it, then you start doing the actions and having it. It's that mentality of when I be a certain way, I'll do a certain way, and then I'll have what I would like to have in my life. Rather than once I have what I would like in my life, I am going to do a certain action to get what I would like to have. And then I will be happy. I will be whatever emotion you have attached to having that. So when you think about that, that is why it is so big to know aspects of the person you would be if you had your vision. And sometimes it's hard to know exactly who you would be because right now you're not that person. But if you would feel happy or successful, and you can really vibe into that, into your cells. And you would know if you were being confident, if you were, thinking outside the box, if you were standing in who you are, whatever it is, if you were loving yourself more, whatever it is, you take the small steps to be like that. And when you start being like that, the actions start coming in for what you need to do to create that. So for me, when I start being a writer, when I start being excited by what I'm putting out there, when I start being a certain way, then things start flowing in, and then I'm achieving what I would like to have. I start standing in my vision. So I think that is such a powerful thing. I really hope you try those different things, because I think you'll find a lot of shifts that happen. Those are massive energetic shifts that you start tapping into when you start tapping into changing how you're being, because you're teaching your subconscious something new. You know, you're teaching your subconscious something different that you would like to do, that you would like to create in your life. And your subconscious wants to fulfill that. So your subconscious is going to find the way to create it along the lines of what you're asking. You know, it might not be exactly how you think it should be from A to B, but it still creates it along those lines. So that's some food for thought. That's some things to try. I hope you have some beautiful takeaways. And until next time.